The last thing anyone expected inside a neighborhood mailbox was a tiny puppy, whimpering in the dark. But there he was, cold, trembling, and holding a note written with shaky, tear-stained ink. One glance at the message stopped everyone's breath and revealed a heartbreaking truth no one was prepared to face. Morning sunlight spilled over the quiet suburban street as mail carrier Jenna made her usual rounds, humming softly to herself. Everything felt calm, predictable, just another peaceful day. But as she approached the blue mailbox in front of the corner house, she paused. A faint, unfamiliar sound drifted from inside. It wasn't metal rattling or letters shifting. It was whimpering. Gentle, trembling whimpering, confused. Jenna set down her mail bag and slowly pulled open the mailbox door. Her breath caught instantly. Curled inside, wrapped awkwardly in strips of duct tape, was a tiny puppy with soft white fur and eyes squeezed shut. For a moment, Jenna couldn't move. Shock washed over her, followed quickly by worry. She scanned the street, heart racing, hoping someone would appear with an explanation. But the neighborhood was silent, leaving her alone with the trembling animal and a rising sense of dread. Jenna gently reached into the mailbox, her hands trembling as she lifted the tiny puppy into the sunlight. The little creature was lighter than she expected, its fragile body tensing at every movement. Though the duct tape wasn't painfully tight, it held the puppy awkwardly, as if someone inexperienced had tried to keep it secure. Its fur was soft but slightly dusty, and its breathing came in small, uneven puffs. What struck Jenna the most wasn't the tape, it was the piece of folded paper tucked between the puppy's paws, as if placed there with care. The puppy whimpered again and nudged the note weakly, almost as though it wanted her to read it. Jenna felt her chest tighten. Whoever left this puppy behind hadn't simply tossed it away. There was intention here. Desperation threaded through the strange scene, and the thought of what that note might reveal made her hands shake even more. Jenna cradled the trembling puppy against her chest, trying to steady her breath as she grabbed her phone. Her voice quivered when she called for help, explaining what she had found. Within minutes, neighbors began stepping outside, drawn by the urgency in her tone and the sight of the small bundle in her arms. People gathered around her, some with hands over their mouths, others shaking their heads in disbelief. Whispers spread quickly across the quiet street, blending shock with concern. A few asked who could possibly do such a thing, while others focused on the puppy's faint whimpers as sirens approached in the distance. One question hung heavily over the growing crowd. Why was the puppy left here? When the animal rescue team arrived, Jenna carefully transferred the puppy into the arms of a gentle-looking officer. But even as they examined the little dog, everyone's attention kept drifting back to the folded note she'd found. It remained clutched in Jenna's hand, its edges slightly crumpled from her grip. She hadn't opened it yet. Something about it felt heavy, like it carried more than just words. A small circle formed around her as the officer encouraged her to read it. Jenna hesitated, feeling dozens of eyes waiting, hoping, fearing. The street had fallen strangely silent, as if the entire neighborhood were holding its breath. With a slow inhale, Jenna unfolded the paper. The handwriting was shaky, uneven, written by someone emotional, someone struggling. Jenna read the first line silently, and her face softened instantly. It wasn't a threat, nor an apology. It was something far more heartbreaking. She began reading aloud, her voice barely above a whisper. Every sentence deepened the stillness around her. The note wasn't from someone cruel, it was from someone desperate. Someone who believed they had no other choice. Someone who loved this puppy more than anything, yet felt unworthy of keeping it safe. Tears welled in the crowd before she even finished. The more Jenna read, the heavier the words became, sinking into everyone's chest like stones dropped into still water. The note explained that the puppy's name was Milo, a name chosen with love. His owner wrote that Milo had been rescued from the streets only a few months earlier, during a time when life still felt manageable. But everything had changed quickly. The writer described losing their job, then their home, then the small savings they'd clung to. They had spent weeks sleeping in a car that barely ran, struggling to feed themselves, let alone a growing puppy. Yet throughout it all, Milo had remained their only source of light, curling against them at night and greeting them each morning with unconditional affection. But as the situation worsened, the owner realized they were failing him. Milo needed food, care, and safety, things they could no longer provide. The note said they had tried shelters, tried asking for help, tried everything they could think of. But everywhere they turned, doors were full or closed. So, with a breaking heart, they chose the mailbox. It wasn't random. It belonged to a neighborhood known for kindness, where they'd once seen neighbors helping each other during storms and holidays. They believed someone here would care. Near the end, the handwriting grew shakier, the ink smudged by what looked like tears. Please, the note read, give him the life I desperately wanted to. Tell him I loved him more than anything, and I'm sorry I wasn't enough." By the time Jenna finished, everyone around her was silently crying. Animal Rescue gently carried Milo into their van, wrapping him in a soft blanket as the crowd watched with a mixture of sorrow and hope. At the clinic, veterinarians worked quickly, giving him warm fluids, a careful examination, and the food he'd been desperately needing. Milo trembled at first, unsure of all the new hands around him, but slowly he relaxed. Each gentle touch, each soothing voice seemed to remind him that he was finally safe. Word spread through the community, and soon people began stopping by the shelter, asking about the little mailbox puppy. The note had touched everyone deeply, and Milo became a symbol of compassion, proof that love can survive even in hardship. Donations poured in for his care, and families volunteered to visit him, offering playtime and affection. Within days, Milo's tail began wagging again, small at first, then brighter and stronger. His energy returned and his eyes sparkled with trust. Several families expressed interest in adopting him, but one stood out, a gentle couple who had followed his story from the moment Jenna discovered him. They promised warmth, stability, and a life filled with love, everything Milo had been missing, and everything he deserved. Just as Milo was settling into his new routine at the shelter, authorities contacted Jenna with surprising news. They had identified the person who wrote the note, a young adult living in a temporary housing center, only a few miles away. Instead of anger, the community felt a rise of compassion. They wanted to understand, not accuse. Arrangements were made for a gentle meeting. When the owner arrived, their eyes immediately filled with tears at the sight of Milo, healthier and brighter than before. They reached out with trembling hands but stopped short, afraid they no longer had the right. The shelter staff assured them it was okay, and Milo, recognizing the familiar scent, nudged forward with a soft whine. The reunion wasn't about reclaiming ownership, it was about healing. The owner explained their struggles, their guilt, and their love, and the community, gathered quietly around them, responded not with judgment, but with empathy. In the days that followed, the community rallied around both Milo and his former owner. Donations helped the young adult secure stable housing, and volunteers stepped forward with job leads, meals, and encouragement. Milo officially joined the loving family that had applied to adopt him, but they promised to keep the owner involved, sending photos, updates, and invitations to visit. Each meeting brought smiles instead of sorrow, and every wag of Milo's tail reminded them all of how kindness had changed their lives. What began as heartbreak became a story of hope, proof that compassion can turn strangers into family.